Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap. Of course, I'm joined by Cody Carpentier as we continue through our rookie prospect series of videos here. Today, we'll be talking about two more Senior Bowlers that are at the wide receiver position. Cody, what the hell's going on with you, brother?
Not too much, man. Still up here in the great north. Sun's out. It's about 45, balmy. Having a good couple of days up here in Minnesota, enjoying the weather. So I'm ready to talk some Senior Bowl again.
All right, so the two we're going over today will be Jamari Thrash. He's the one that I did from Louisville. Gosh, and I can't believe that I suckered myself into picking Louisville versus USC. I'd forgotten how bad that they look versus Florida State, But anyway, Jamari Thrash from Louisville, and then Cody did Ricky Pearsall from Florida. Do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
I'll start out with Ricky. I think he's a very interesting one.
I like him. I think he's good.
I haven't went into our ranks and I haven't ranked him vis-a-vis these other guys yet, but I liked what I saw. Again, it's the classic thing. You're going to see him and you're going to think of a lot of these other guys because he's white, but he plays wide receiver, and I think he's got a little bit of a swag to himself. I've watched a couple of videos about kind of the stuff I look at for like the dog rating stuff, where it's like I just want to hear him talk. I want to hear him, I want to hear him break down the game, break down life, break down situations, things like that. I think he's got a little swag to himself. He started out at Arizona State, played 3 years there, broke out his junior season, led Arizona State in receiving yards that third season with soon-to-be Heisman winner Jaden Daniels as his quarterback. He then transferred, and it came down to Florida and Oregon at that point. And Pearsall ended up picking Florida, and he went and played with Billy Napier that first season in Florida. But top down, Ricky Pearsall, 6'1", 190 pounds. He's 23 and a half years old. He'll be 24 the weekend after the NFL kicks off next year. Breakout age again, junior season, 21 years old, 23% of the offensive market at the receiving perspective, receiving yards, 31%, and the receiving touchdowns was at 20%. He comes from Tempe, Arizona, which is, of course, the home of the Arizona State Sun Devils, where he went to college to begin with, out of college as a 3-star prospect in the class of 2019. Again, attended Arizona State for 3 years, played with Jaden Daniels before transferring to Florida, where he, over the course of 25 games, pulled in 98 receptions, 1,626 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Going into that last game against Florida State just a few weeks ago, he was 52 yards shy of 1,000 receiving yards on the 2023 season. Florida has not had a wide receiver hit the 1,000-yard marker since 2002, and that player was the name of Taylor Jacobs. So no Kadarius Toney, no Van Jefferson, no Riley Cooper, no Percy Harvin, no Chad Jackson, no Demarcus Robinson. None of those guys have hit 1,000 yards in their time at Florida.
That's wild, huh?
Very interesting thing about Cooper. Very interesting thing about Pearsall is that he doesn't
you
just line up.
You getting mixed up with Cooper Kupp or Riley Cooper or what?
He had the Riley Cooper name, exactly. And so an interesting thing about Pearsall, though, is he did, like 2 years ago, he lined up pretty predominantly out wide. It was like 65, 70% wide, 35% in the slot. Then in 2022, it kind of flipped, and he was playing the slot about 70% of the time.
Yeah,
this year,
because if you watch some of the 2022 stuff, that's what I was asking you. Is he only slot? Yeah. But so no. Apparently,
and so then this year everything flipped back, and he was pretty much split down the middle. He had 353 snaps out wide, 425 in the slot. So again, a little more in the slot. But even amongst that, I wanted to split a little bit deeper because sometimes you'll see a guy maybe favor one side. He might play slot and wide, but also he'll just be like predominantly on the right side. Not Pearsall. Pearsall had 393 total snaps on the left, 385 total on the right. So his versatility is pretty much endless as far as the alignments go in the slot, on wide, internal slot, out wide slot. Like he's lined up everywhere on the field. And I think that Ricky Pearsall is going to be a guy that you're going to be able to utilize heavily. I think in NFL front, I think teams are going to love to have a guy like this. It reminded me a lot of like a Ronnie Bell of last year from Michigan. That was at the Senior Bowl. He had a bad Senior Bowl week. I don't foresee that coming from Ricky Pearsall. A little more cleaner in the route running. I think Again, heavily utilized in all alignments. He's a hand catcher. He had a beautiful catch against Charlotte that everybody remembers. That was a top 10 play. But he can seem to get a little bit lazy sometimes on some of those internal easy routes where maybe he loses the concentration there or takes his eyes off the ball. I saw that a couple of times. Very, very fast feet, very quick twitch. I noticed they used him a lot on pop screens, jet sweeps, drag routes, things that get the ball into his hands quick because he's good at breaking tackles and good after the catch. He had 40 first downs on 65 receptions this year. 40 first downs on 65 receptions. It's about 66% of the time around that number, 66, 70% of the time. Strong hands, again, quick twitch feet, great throughout his route running. Kind of reminds you as far as the route running, if you just watch the camera just on his feet while he's running, he's got a lot of nuance to it. And that reminds you of a lot of the new age guys, like, I'm not going to compare his route running to Diggs and Jefferson, but when you watch those guys run routes, it's a lot of feet. It's a lot of feet in the route. And then that's what creates the movement up top. I think he's a smooth adjuster downfield, back shoulder throws and things of that nature. Again, Florida hasn't had good quarterbacks the last couple of years. So some of the things he's had to do a lot on his own, but the quarterbacks have put him in, some spots to win. The one thing I don't like is I think he does lack some true downfield separation where, again, we talk about the route running where he can create separation with his feet, but when he's past a guy, when he's even, he's open, but when he's even, he's not leaving. He doesn't quite got that even leaving speed where he's going to probably be in that, I would say that mid to high 4.5s, 4.58, 4.59 area, which against these professional DBs, you're not going to be pulling away very.
He's not going to be 4.58. No.
What do you think he's?
Yeah,
I don't think he doesn't got leaving. He don't got leaving speed.
I know, but 4.58's like 4.58's like it's like you're not leaving the linebacker. I mean, I think 4.58 is probably a discounting. I think he's faster than that, Cody.
Puka ran a 4.57. Puka can split when he gets there. Ricky can split when he gets there. I'm just saying he's not going to do it. Like that's not going to be a thing that just happens. He's not just going to. I'm running a fade and I'm leaving you. I'm going to the end zone. I'm going to outrun you by
Puka's Puka's like 200 pounds though. He was 203. So I don't know. I think 4.58 is probably a little. Are you projecting him at 4.58? Yeah, at least do him at 4.55. I think it's probably.
All right. That's
right.
Fair. That's
Maybe
fair.
You're right. I mean, I think I don't think he looks 4.58 to me. I mean, to me, what did Tyler Boyd run? I think he looks just like Tyler Boyd. Like his styles, his feet, his change of direction, all that stuff reminds me a ton of Tyler Boyd coming out. I've forgotten kind of. It's just the way he moves and everything.
4.58. Tyler Boyd 4.58.
Okay. All right. Fine. Leave him at 4.58. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Where do you have him? Where do you think he's going to go? I mean, do you have a grade on him at this point?
So
obviously, as always, man, we have to give the disclaimer when we get to the Senior Bowl and we see these guys or the combine or the pro days and see these guys. And as we do more work and as we get more, intel, man, like that's why we get on the road and go do this, right? We're going to talk to other prospects about what it's like going up against these guys. We're going to not to get into everything that we do because we don't want, it's like we have our own process. We like to keep it in house, but there's going to be a lot of extra information that kind of comes in. So this isn't but just from this is the initial kind of primer. This is the eyeball test. Where do you think he's likely going to end up as far as your draft projection, as far as round?
As far as draft capital goes, again, I like him. But again, he's 23 and a half, broke out at 21. He's going to be 24 the first day he steps on the field. We saw last year Puka go in the 5th. We saw Ronnie Bell go in the 6th. Guys of this nature, I think he's projecting somewhere late 4th, early 5th is kind of where I'm seeing him right now. I like him, again, but comparing profiles to other guys around, like the one thing that does come to my mind is wondering, like, again, he's like, I'm going to go to Florida over Oregon. He chose that 2 years ago. Imagine him going to Oregon and being on this Oregon offense right now. Like you can only imagine that, of course, but that would unlock something different, playing with a different quarterback, playing with a better offense, things of that nature. But right now I'm looking at him kind of like that early 5th, late 4th type of an area.
All right. I did Jamari Thrash from.
Is he trash? Jamari Thrash is trash? No,
I'm not gonna say he's trash.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
This isn't. No, man,
kidding.
we're not. That's the kind of thing that can really come back to bite you, man.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Especially pre-Senior Bowl, because it's like I said, every Senior Bowl you go in and there are guys who you think look super. It's like the Khalil Shakirs, right? Who just look. You're like, man, this is gonna be the guy that impresses everybody, and it's just, it's not like Khalil Shakir was bad. It's just he didn't look like he did in his film. Whereas you can get there, and there are guys who maybe you weren't as impressed with what you saw on their film coming in, but you're just like, dude, this guy's an absolute baller. Once you see him live and in person. So, it'll be interesting to see. But look, I will say this: out of everybody we've done so far, including Pearsall, including the guy who last was like, who I think you like Tez Walker a little bit better than I do. But even including Tez Walker, I'll have Thrash ranked as last place out of all these guys as far as the 6 that we've done so far. So what? Brennan Rice, Leggett, is it Isaiah Leggett?
Xavier
Leggett, Jacob Cowing, Tez Walker,
Brendan Rice,
and Jamari Thrash, and Jacob Cowing, who, by the way, I texted you yesterday, showed just a different gear last night in that in the bowl game versus Oklahoma. But anyway, the he's 6'1", 185, and those are unofficial, right? His age in 2024 will be 23 until around this time next year. So his birth date is December 19th, 2000. So he'll be 2024. When does he? If he just turned, he just turned
24 next December. Yeah, he's 23.
So 24. Yeah, right. My math probably needs a little work there. So yeah, he'll be 23 for most of 2024, and then around this time next year he'll turn 24. Man, it's just I guess a little bit of background on the guy. He was a 3-star prospect coming out, class of 2019. Broke out at age 22, almost broke out at age 21 when he was at Georgia State. Played 4 seasons at Georgia State but maybe a little bit concerning that he did have the monster final season at Georgia State before transferring to Louisville this last year. One of the main drivers and the main reasons offensively. Is it Jeff Brom? I just watched him last night. Yep. One of the main drivers of the initial success that his programs had. This is the leading receiver. He's a good college player. It's funny, Cody. We as far as the market share stuff, 24% of the receptions, 26% of the receiving yards, 27% of the receiving touchdowns for 26% total production percentage from him. And whenever you look back to his time at Georgia State, like I said, the monster 2022 season. He was All-America. He was an All-America, All Sun Belt record breaker for you look at the records. He didn't break the all-time school records for the cumulative stats, right? But just like, had like the first and the tied for the second biggest games in school history and stuff. There's a dude who would just go nuclear and just take over football games. Clearly a dude who, since, one of the early invites from Jim Nagy, somebody who the scouts are really interested to see, because they were on to him probably at the Georgia Southern. They wanted to, or not Georgia Southern, Georgia State, and they wanted to see him at a bigger program. He comes through, delivers well enough. Was only second team all conference this year. But it's like, Cody, this feels to me like this shows like the kind of the highlighting of the chain movers, because one of the things, you mentioned about Pearsall and about all the first downs that he caught. One of the things that I looked at for this guy, I'm like, man, he's an outside receiver. He only plays 10% of his snaps inside, but at 6'1" unofficially, 185 unofficially, he's a dude. It felt like he was constantly moving the chains. And so I went and looked, and much like it's like a doppelganger of what you said. He had 41. You and I both looked up this stat this week, which I just thought was funny. We didn't talk about this, and it's not generally part of not a standard part of my process to look at the first downs, but he had 41 first downs this year on like 63 catches. So I mean, he's a good chain moving, savvy player. He's got a knack for getting open. He's shown the ability to create after catch, not because he's super twitchy. He's not like Pearsall where he has that twitch. He's more of a, man, I'm not sure if this is very good, but he kind of reminds me of like a poor man's Greg Jennings. Lanky, good hands, can get it done for you a little bit dirty, plays with really good play strength, but maybe not somebody who you think is going to go out. He's not a threat to go the distance anytime he gets the ball in his hands. It's that isn't what Jamari Thrash does. He's a good player. But he does have a lack of high end speed, and I do not think he's going to. I could be wrong about this. I don't think he's going to test very explosively. I don't. I think he's one of these guys that's slinky, good knack for finding soft spots in the zones, good enough contested catch rate. He had too many drops. If you look at Cockamamie PFF, an 11.3% drop rate in 2023, that's too high, right? We usually say anything above 7 or 8 is when you kind of lift the old eyebrows up a little bit there and say, well, what exactly is going on there with that? But those 41 first downs in 2023, that's what Pearsall had, right? 41, 40. So that was tied for 37th on PFF among 453 college football qualifiers who played at least 20% of their team snaps. So, I mean, this is a dude who they went to in critical times, who they felt was dependable. Like I said, savvy, nothing that's going to jump off the page for you athletic wise, but a dude you could definitely see stepping in. Cody, to me, he looks like a guy who could step in and be a team's, dependable number 3. This kind of dude. But like I said, until we see him at the Senior Bowl, we'll hold off on that. As far as the yards per route run, it's fine. I don't have it pulled up right now. Maybe you have that sheet pulled up. I think it was 2.75 for him. Is that right? Do you have the
2.37?
Okay. Well, so I mean, it's fine. It's fine. That's perfectly fine. It's better than Cowing, right?
Yeah. It's just it's ahead of Pearsall. Pearsall was 2.23. Devontae Walker was 2.28. So he's puts him right in that area.
It's fine. I mean, dependable, good player. Not sure. I think that he seems to play a little bit stronger. He seems to play a little bit stronger than you would think at like 185. I think he probably weighs a little bit more than that. He struck me as a dude that weighed more like 195, something like this. So we'll sort of see what he weighs in at the national scouting weigh-in. I'm gonna project his 40 time at a 4. Man, if we're saying Pearsall is a 4.58, I think this guy's a 4.58 too. Because I was gonna say 4.55, but I would have said for Pearsall 4.5 flat. So I think he's slower than Pearsall. I'm not sure we should project him at a 4.58. It's fine. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just a projection, but I think he's going to run faster than that, dude.
I'm not sure about that. How did you break down like his yak? So I was looking at PFF at yak, and Pearsall I thought did pretty well. And after the catch, he had 377 yards after the catch, which was 30th in all Power 5 this year. Thrash was 25th. Thrash had 418 yards after catch. Was that kind of something because for me, like when I was watching Pearsall, it was like I recognized, again, I talked about the route running, but when they utilized him in the shallow parts of the field, it was like the first guy rarely tackled him.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like I was saying with him, he's shown the ability to create after catch, but it's mainly through his play strength, right? It's not. It isn't one of these things where he's just got this completely elusive skill set, this like open field dynamism that allows him just to create all this after. But I think he's like averages 6.6 yards after catch per reception. So I mean, very clearly. But like I said, he's sort of one of these guys that can drive his legs, reach for the first down pile, reach for the chains, and that's sort of his role. He's a good player like that, man. There's a couple of plays, there's a couple of plays where he does have long touchdowns, but it's some of this stuff where it's just kind of slants, where maybe the coverage is a little bit busted, and he just, nobody takes a good pursuit angle and stuff like that. It isn't usually the stuff where they have him on a 9 route where he runs past dudes, lifts the lid, and has big explosive plays like that. It seems like the big plays that he did have were more as a function of scheme, more as a function of being. I mean, he's Johnny on the spot. He's a good football player. I don't know if I think I would place him about. I think he's a day 3 pick. Right now, I think he's probably a day 3 pick. Now, whether that means 4th round, whether that means 6th round, that's stuff that we'll dig into. And it could be after the Senior Bowl. We say he's got a huge week and whatever, but that's sort of the primer there on. That's sort of the primer there on Jamari.
I was going to say one thing that came to my mind while I'm sitting here thinking through like comps and situations and like outlook. I brought up Ronnie Bell. I brought up Cedric Wilson for Ricky Pearsall for like play style comps that I kind of liked. But as far as like the fantasy side of things, one thing that came to my mind was I got to remember a year ago talking about Rashee Rice and how I liked his route running. And again, he was listed at like the 180. I want to believe he was like 189.
He was one of the guys I was going to ask you about here. Yeah. He was one of the ones.
And he went up to like 200 or 205, whatever it was at the Senior Bowl. And I remember instantly being like, dang, man, like I really loved Rashee. And then he gained the weight. And I remember from that weigh-in, everything, and that was like a big detractor. I was like, damn, he weighed in and he looked slow. And then it was like step by step by step, Rashee just got better and better and better back in the process. And it kind of was the flat circle thing. It came right back around to Rashee. But my thing is I think that's kind of a situation you could see Pearsall in as far as fantasy goes, is like you can now see Rashee growing into a number 1 role. Now, it took him 15 weeks in the season with the best quarterback, but I think if Pearsall was put in a situation to, be forced out there and be continually targeted and he's running routes, I think that there's upside for him to be kind of like a Rashee Rice type of a player in fantasy. I don't think that there's like this. I don't think there's anything that can get him to tier 1, the Wilsons, the Lambs of the world, but I think he can get to that Rashee Rice tier level as far as fantasy output goes.
I'm going to ask you these questions. We have a question, though, from Caden. It relates to fantasy, maybe. My guys, this one I made it to the championship. I lost Keenan. My replacements are waiver warriors. Thoughts on KJ Osborne, Dobbs, Dortch, Brandon Cooks, Gabe Davis. Doesn't feel like a Gabe Davis week to me. I think if Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson are both out, doesn't it feel like KJ Osborne? He's saying PPR, but I mean, we know that Christian Watson's out. It looks like Dontavion Wicks is questionable.
I got Dobbs at wide receiver 27 this week.
So is it Dobbs, but only if there's no Dontavion Wicks?
Yeah, but Wicks is banged up anyway. So I mean, do I got
Watson's doubtful. Wicks is questionable.
Yeah, but Wicks is.
I guess Reed is just not even a worry. I haven't seen anything on Reed. Let me just look that up.
I feel a lot better, and I'm ready to play. He's cleared for Sunday night.
Okay. So yeah, because he's not. People aren't reporting on him, so I guess he's just off the report.
I like Dobbs at this point, but again, we got the serious show on Saturday, Caden. So we'll have a definitive answer for you by then.
Yep, we'll have the what?
The
what on Saturday? You have it on Saturday?
Sirius XM.
Okay, Sirius. Yeah.
Tap in.
Tap in on Sirius. Okay. Here we go. Let me ask you about some of these guys. So compare how you feel about Ricky Pearsall to the way you felt about let's see. Do you know what one of my comps? How about this? Jamari Thrash or my comp that I settled on. You might not even remember who this is. Do you remember Courtney Davis from Texas A&M?
Yep.
How do you compare him to him?
I probably would have taken Davis.
Pearsall or trying to find somebody that's kind of because Pearsall's what, 185?
Yep.
So you already took one of them. All right, what about this? Pearsall or Diami Brown?
Oh, I love Diami Brown. I'd go Pearsall for the route running. Diami was always a straight line type of player. I loved his dynamism downfield and stuff, but I think I'm going to end up having Pearsall higher.
Pearsall or Tylan Wallace?
Tylan Wallace. I was high on Tylan Wallace.
Pearsall or John Mechie III?
Pearsall.
Thrash or John Mechie?
John Mechie.
And then from last year, you took my Rashi Rice away. You took my one I was going to try and swindle you on here. How about this one? This one's perfect. We were just talking about him. Dontavion Wicks or Pearsall?
2021 Dontavion Wicks, but after 2022, it'd be Ricky Pearsall.